Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and in this video I'm going to be comparing two 60% keyboards, both with logical names, the Corsair K70 Pro Mini Wireless and the Corsair K65 RGB. Now these are two interesting keyboards with a number of different highlights to them, and some interesting specs and features that make them worth talking about. You'll see that side by side, and even in different shots, you'll see that they are very similar looking and offer a similar sort of setup with a radiant spacebar, keycap puller, a Corsair logo keycap, detachable USB-C cable, and other similarities that make them worth talking about. They're both 60% in size, which makes them titchy and very small and compact. And in this video I'm going to be showing them with different keycap setups. I've also unboxed and reviewed them separately and swapped out the keycaps. You can see one here with the SteelSeries pudding keycaps on, for example. Now one of the things that I was struck by with the K65 RGB Mini was its RGB lighting, whereas the K70 Pro Mini Wireless isn't quite as striking. It has PBT Double Shot keycaps that don't let through quite as much RGB, but it does have this RGB lighting ring that runs around the outside of it, which is a lighting edge setup with 28 LEDs providing some RGB lighting. Now the K70 Pro Mini Wireless, as you might have gathered from the name, is a wireless keyboard with both 2.4 GHz and Bluetooth connectivity, whereas the K65 RGB Mini is a wired keyboard. Now if you put the two side by side, you'll notice there are some differences. They look very similar in sort of the layout and design style of them out of the box. They both have that radiant spacebar, for example. They both have a kind of elevated body that sort of slopes upwards towards the back. They both have a semi-thick frame to them and some highlights of interest. I think the K65 looks nicer in terms of the RGB lighting, as you've seen, but the K70 is slightly thinner in its body and also has adjustable feet, which the K65 does not. Now these are two interesting keyboards with different key switch setups, but they both have Cherry MX RGB or Cherry MX speed switches as options, and varies per region what you'll get there. You also get our PBT Double Shot keycaps as standard, so you can see a very nice setup there. You also have a standard bottom row layout, so you can swap out the keycaps, but you will see that the K70 Pro Mini Wireless has some differences in it. Obviously that RGB lighting bar, as I said, also a power button at the back. The placement of the USB-C port is on the left hand side, whereas with the K65 it's kind of in the middle. You have a 2.4 GHz wireless dongle. You can get up to 200 hours of battery life out of this keyboard without the RGB lighting on, or about 30-ish hours with it turned on. So there is some difference there in what you can get out of it, which is worth bearing in mind. So what you're seeing is some differences in the sort of external hardware, but what you will notice if you look at the specs and the description is that both these keyboards are ridiculous in terms of the specification. You have an 8000 Hz polling rate on both of them, 4000 Hz key scanning, which means that you get super fast transmission of the data through to your PC with relative ease and a good solid connection. The K70 Pro Mini Wireless offers Slipstream wireless connectivity over 2.4 GHz, and it has a technology which scans for the best frequency, so you get a nice solid connection between the two. Now one of the things of note, and as I'll show later on in the video, there's also a slight difference in the sort of sound that you get out of them. I'm going to do a separate video with a sound test, but I'm also going to leave a clip of this at the end. I found that the K70 sounds a bit nicer. K65 is a bit of a hollow sound to it, even with the same switches. So they both have Cherry MX RGB Red switches on them, which obviously have that linear response, and I'll leave the specs of those in the description. But the thing that's interesting about the K70 is that you can swap the switches out. So you have a keycap puller and a key switch puller included in the box, so you can tug those key switches out and swap them out for other ones. So you have the potential to upgrade here, which you don't have with the K65. They are, however, only 3-pin switches, so it is worth bearing that in mind, because I tried to sort them out with Novel Keys Creams, which are 5 pins, so you can't do that. You are limiting your options ever so slightly, and it's worth keeping that in mind. But this is a good upgrade path, and this is the first time Corsair's done this, and it's pretty exciting to see them doing this because it adds a level of flexibility to your design. But you can see a Royal Clutch keyboard here with 5 pins set up. The Corsair only has 3 pins, so you are limited, but I think this is still a fantastic setup. Now, both these keyboards are fantastic. The K70 is certainly superior in terms of the specs and the features. It has a lot of the same specs, but obviously adding in things like the ability to have swappable switches is fantastic too. And they also have multiple layers of actions. So you have dual actions, you have 20 layers of RGB lighting per key that you can set up as well. 50 onboard profiles for both keyboards, so there's a lot of similarities there, where you can set up and program a variety of things within Corsair's IQ software. But obviously you have the freedom of wireless connectivity with the K70 Pro Mini wireless at 2.4 GHz. You have triple Bluetooth connectivity as well, so you can do that. It also has a PlayStation mode and other things. So be sure to check out the description to the link to watch the video on both of these. We'll go into a bit more depth on those things. K70 is far superior and is really interesting, but they're both, I hate 60%, so there you go. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Stick around now to check out the sound test. But before that, I want to give a shout out to my favourite YouTube members: Star Astons, Derek Townsend, Chief Hal, Beaster Bunny, Geralt Olivia, Aaron Yarden, Jackson Freeman, Rigsy79, Raw483, Meaty Keyboard, and Sir Spawns Lots, all supporting the channel by clicking that join button. Click that join button now to find out more about the benefits of being a member of my channel and just supporting me, because I really appreciate you. If you don't want to support, just smash that subscribe button because it is free and you will find more content and get to listen to the wonder that is my voice. I don't add any bass to it despite what people might tell you. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for watching.